Oh, God.
Most players think the secret to breaking 9-ball is making the wing ball and playing shape for the 1. But guess what? When someone else is racking for you, that's a trap. Let me show you why and what works for me. Look, I get it. When you watch the pros play 9-ball with 1 on the spot, they make the wing ball. Makes sense that you would want to do it the way they do.
He's getting the 1 ball over the corner and never losing the cue ball.
But here's the thing, most of us are not playing with perfect conditions, perfect racks, or referees that actually know what they're doing. If you play APA 9-ball or a league or tournament or other match, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're not racking for yourself, your opponent is racking for you. And let's be honest, most players are not going to rack tight. Now, sure, the 1 ball might be frozen to the rack, but everything else, not so much. And even for me, a guy who has a pretty big break, if I break 9-ball, make the wing ball, guess what? The 1 ball is not guaranteed. In fact, often it ends up on the short rail because of the loose rack. There's not enough speed going into the 1 ball. So now I gotta play safe or come with a tough cut shot just to stay at the table. Man, that's not a break, that's a coin flip. So if making the wing ball doesn't work consistently and you can't play shape on the 1 without soft breaking or getting really lucky, what's the move? Look, I'm gonna be really honest here. This is a last resort kind of break for me, what I'm about to tell you. And I'm honestly not a favorite to succeed, but it is better than having no plan. So here's what I've found works for me in these kind of situations. The solution, as much as you can have a solution in this case, is make the 1 ball in the opposite side pocket. Now, if you've talked to players who have used this kind of break before, or have seen Dr. Dave's 9-ball breaking video, he quickly goes over this. But the way he says to do it is by cutting the 1 ball. And look, that works. You aim slightly off center and you cut the 1 into the side pocket. But, and this is the big but, when someone else is racking for you and you don't know if it's a tight rack or not, this approach gets really tricky really fast. Cutting the 1 ball means that you have to get a bunch of things right at the same time. You have to hit the cue ball clean, you have to hit the rack at just the right angle, and then, this is the part that gets really tricky, the cue ball is coming off the side rail and back out towards the middle of the table. You might get a bad kiss, you might get a bad roll, you might scratch. There's a lot of factors that have to go your way in order to make cutting the 1 ball into the side pocket work really well for you. Now, what isn't commonly known with loose racks is that it usually sends the 1 ball too low, especially if you're trying to cut the 1 ball into the side. So instead of cutting the 1 ball, I like to hit it full, dead center on the head ball, and I use where I hit the cue ball, high or low, to adjust where the 1 ball tracks. Now look, maybe I got lucky with how this worked out for me, but I have learned a ton about how to control the 1 ball when shooting different kinds of breaks, like the 9 on the spot cut break, which is the one that pros use on tour. And the way they adjust the 1 ball is by changing the amount of spin. Sure, there's cut angle and other things too, but the spin really changes the trajectory of the 1. The basics of this are simple. It's actually kind of cool. The same idea as throwing an object ball using inside or outside spin, left or right. Any spin that you put on the cue ball, it puts an opposite gearing effect on the object ball. So if I use right spin on the cue ball, it's going to put a left spin on the object ball. The same is true here, except people just don't think about it. High and low spin also changes where the object ball goes. So in this case, here's what happens. If the 1 ball is going below the side pocket, which happens a lot with loose racks, I can use a little bit of topspin to push the 1 ball higher on the table. The topspin on the cue ball makes the 1 ball spin the opposite way and changes where it goes. And then if the 1 ball is going above the side pocket, which is pretty rare with loose racks, I can use backspin to force a roll on the 1 ball, pushing it down table towards the side pocket. Now, only if I'm hitting the 1 ball well and the top and bottom spin adjustments are not doing the job, then I try other stuff. I might elevate my cue more by moving the cue ball back and closer to the rail, which does change how the balls move. Or if I'm desperate, I'll move the cue ball closer to the center of the table and I'll force the one ball higher up the table just because I'm changing the angle from where the cue ball is coming from. The beauty of this is that I'm not trying to find the perfect cut angle on the one ball, and I'm not trying to control the cue ball. And because all these factors are not included here, it's just top and bottom spin. It just so much easier to execute. And that means I have a higher percentage chance of this working, especially on a loose rack. Now look, I still got to get lucky. Everything has to go my way, including shape on the two ball. And that's if you make the one ball. But like I said, it's a lot better than not having a goal while breaking at all. Keep in mind, if this situation is anything other than barbox 9-ball with the triangle rack when your opponent is racking for you, this might not be the best break to use. Also, if you're using a template rack or you know the rack is gonna be tight, this might not be the best choice. The standard practice of making the wing ball and playing shape for the one is usually gonna be your best move here if it's available. But it's good to know where your options are if you need them. Now let's get into why this works. I got 5 reasons. First, distance to the pocket. On a 7-foot table, the balls are closer to the side pocket, and that means the one ball doesn't have to travel that far. So there's more room for error. On a 9-foot table, you need a tighter rack, better accuracy, and on a bar box, it's just all in all more forgiving. Second, the head ball is usually frozen. Even if your opponent racks all the balls loose, most of the players usually get at least the head ball frozen to the second row balls. If you need to check the rack after they're done, that's fine. Go check the rack. See if the one ball is tight against the other balls. Check the rest of the rack. You're not counting on everything being perfect, but you are counting on the one thing you know likely will be frozen, which is the one ball to the second row balls. If that's the case, the rack might just be good enough to still get this break working. Third, no side spin on the cue ball. This is huge. You don't need to make adjustments for deflection and you don't have to aim differently. Your cue tip stays very close to the center of the cue ball. It only moves a little bit up and down, and that makes it easier to aim and easier to hit cleanly. Fourth, you get maximum power into the rack when you strike the ball near the center. I go over this in other videos, but here's the short version. The farther your cue tip is from the center of the cue ball when you strike, the less power goes into making the cue ball travel fast, and more of that cue speed, more of that energy transfers into the spin of the cue ball instead. It's like throwing a curveball. It's not as fast as a fastball because so much of the energy has gone into making the ball spin that it's slower than a fastball. Same idea here. So unless you're using a ton of spin on this break, you're likely to get a good spread of the balls, which gives you a better chance of having a good shot after the break or making one of the other balls on the table. Now, of course, this doesn't consider getting absolutely slug racked like this, but still. And fifth, it's easy to aim. Full ball hit. That's it. It's not complicated. You just line up to the center of the ball. You put a nice, medium, firm stroke on the ball, and that's it. Keep it simple. So, real quick, let's go over the key points about this break just to make it super clear. Your goal is to make the one ball in the opposite side pocket from where you're breaking, top and bottom spin change where the cue ball goes. If you need to adjust more than that, then you can try elevating your cue or moving the cue ball closer to the center of the table, but only if the spin adjustments don't work. You aim full at the one ball, put a nice medium firm swing on the hit, nice and relaxed, you don't have to overpower it, and that will keep you hitting the cue ball accurately. And last but not least, this break is a last resort break when making the wing ball is not going to work. Now look, this is an imperfect situation with an imperfect break, but you know what? Embrace it, because it's part of what makes pool fun. Believe me, being able to overanalyze and make sense of chaos is something I love to do. But sometimes you just got to be able to accept the chaos, make the best of it, and enjoy the game. If the circumstances lead to tough spots, great. That's why you're there, because that tough spot gives you the chance to try something new, learn something while doing it, and hopefully be a better player for it. If this has helped you think about breaking differently at all, let me know in the comments. Do you already use this break? Is it something you're willing to try? Have you had success? I want to hear from you. Also, if you want more breakdowns like this on mechanics, strategy, or more breaking videos, or just join me on my journey of pool improvement, subscribe. I got a lot more coming. Thanks for watching. Happy shooting.